welcome to the Lowland Kids Sew Along for the PJ set. This is the PJ pants and the PJ Raglan. I'm going to be doing the pants in this fabric, but then I actually cut out the curved hem tee cut straight out of this fabric for the top, so I'll be making the Raglan top out of this rib knit from IC. It's for a baby gift for a friend, so it's teeny tiny 0 to 3 month size. I can't even believe how small this is. And then my striped fabric that I'll be doing the pants in is from Million Dot. I am obsessed with their fabric right now. It is so soft and plush, and this is also a rib knit, so it's super stretchy, so comfy and cozy for pajamas. And now let's dive right in. So when you're making this pattern, it is so easy to mix up the arms in the back and the front bodice because they all kind of look the same. So the front has a bigger dip than the back. The back kind of goes straight across, which makes it easy to mix up with the arms because the arms also just go straight across and they all have like these slants on the side. So it's very important to make sure that you are putting it in the right direction. I've attached the back to the front before and two arms together and pretty much every combination that you can do. So just make sure you're paying close attention when you do it. So I have my back and I have it right side up, and then I'm going to take one of my sleeves and line it up. So you can tell the front and the back of your sleeves on the pattern piece. It'll say F and B or F and B for front and back, but you can tell because one side just comes up higher than the other. The higher side is the back. The front side is a little bit lower to go along with the front neck curve. So you just line up those side seams and you're going to sew along right there, and then you'll do the same with the other side, right sides together, and you want to make sure that it's mirrored this time so that the taller side is meeting up with the back yet again, and you'll just sew down both of those sides. Okay, so that's one sleeve attached to the back. Now I'll take the other sleeve. Again, make sure you take the higher side. You can see how it's just a little bit slanted. It's very slight. On the bigger sizes, it's probably a little more noticeable. This is a tiny size, but just make sure you are lining it up accurately. So here's what we have so far. Back bodice, one arm, the other arm. So now you can pick either arm, doesn't matter, and you're going to take your front bodice and line it up with your other sleeve. So just like that, you want to make sure it's right sides together, and we're going to go ahead and sew along this seam here. So now what we have going on is the 4 of these together. So we have arm, back bodice, arm, front bodice. So now you just want to flip it on top of itself so that you can line up the other arm that we haven't sewn to the front bodice yet and line it up right along the front, just like we did on the other side, and sew along the arm seam. Okay, so now I folded the bodice onto itself so you can see an arm over here, front bodice, back bodice is behind, and then a sleeve. Also make sure you're lining this up correctly because it's very easy to just be off by one and get it all mixed up. And then you would be sewing like sleeves to sleeves or whatever. Raglans are really, you have to pay close attention, especially if you're doing the hemmed version. So I'm doing the cuffed version so you can see the sleeves are a lot shorter, but if you're doing the hem version, this is going to be a lot longer and it's going to look very similar to the bodices. So now what we're going to do when it's folded right sides on each other is we're just going to sew the arm seam all the way down the side seam on both sides. We've sewn down our arms all the way over down our side seams. And now we will move on to the cuffs. Okay, So we're gonna take our cuffs, take one at a time, and you're gonna fold it in half and then sew along the raw long edge and leave the two short ends open. Now you'll take your cuffs and fold them wrong side down, just halfway. This is such a tiny cuff, you guys. I can't even imagine if I did the newborn size. Do that with both cuffs. Now we're gonna put them over the arms and serge them on. Okay, so I put my cuff over my sleeve, it's sandwiched in there. And I see a lot of people ask how to do these tiny cuffs because they're just so small. So what I do is I put my presser foot inside of the cuff, inside of the arm and the cuff. So let me get all my little tails out. So I'm gonna put it right inside so you can see my presser foot is in there. And then I'm just gonna let it serge right around. So you'll see it just spinning around. I'm gonna stretch my cuff, but not my sleeve. Just slightly so it fits. You don't want to overstretch or you'll get waves. And with these little tiny baby cuffs, you just have to go so slow. So you can see, I just went around in a little circle there, serged off, and then I'll take an embroidery needle to tie that end in. And just put it right between the layers so you can't even see where the needle is, and then when you pull out the tail, you can't even see the tail tucked in there. It's a very neat way to finish off your seams. Flip it right side out. Oh, look at this little cuff. And then we'll just do the same on the other side. Okay, so the next thing we have to do is the neckband. I'm gonna do a band instead of binding because I find it just gives you like a little extra stretch going over those big newborn heads. And it doesn't get quite as wavy or like stretched out when you're sewing it, and where I'm doing rib and rib, it just makes more sense for me to do a band than to do binding. So I'm gonna put my binding, or my band, right sides together and then sew along the raw short edge here. Next thing I'm gonna do is just fold it in half on itself, wrong sides together. There we go. And then you can pin it in quarters around the whole neck hole opening. I'm just gonna kind of like feel for it because I make these a lot, so I'm kind of used to how much I need to stretch. But you're just gonna want to line up this back seam where you sewed it together, either with the center back of the bodice or with one of the arm seams in the back. I've seen it done both ways, both look good. If you are doing the binding, you can always go to one of my other videos on like the summer peplum or the sleep set. Both of those have binding tutorials. Alright, so we have our neckband on, and then the last thing that we have to do is hem the bottom, which I'm going to do after I do some of the pants, just because I don't have my sewing machine out now and I just want to hem everything all at once. So if you have any questions on hemming, you can go to any of my other videos. We hem in pretty much every single one of them. You'll just fold it under 3/4 of an inch and top stitch using a cover stitch machine, a zigzag stitch, or twin needle. You want to make sure you're using a stretch stitch to do it because these are stretch fabrics, and if you don't, the stitches are going to pop. So there it is. It's so tiny and so cute. I can't wait to see it on this little baby.